So, all right, there we are. Okay, so let me go back. Oops, wrong one. There. Hi, it's Sir Rithkin from Ontier, and I'm here with Duke Stephen of Beckenham, who lives in the middle now, but was from the West Kingdom. And I have a special guest host today, Sir Mari Alexander, who is, you know, the unicorn, Duchess, Laurel, Pelican, Princess by Right of Arms. So, and she and Beck go way back. So I figured I would have her here and we get all the cool stuff because she knows him. So, and I have heard such great things about you, by the way. I can't talk to anybody from the West Kingdom without them bringing up your name about you being an influence in their fighting. So I'm excited to learn more about you.
Excellent.
We usually start these things with sort of like your Sca origin story. So if you could just, you know, tell us where and when you found the Sca, that would be great.
That would be in college. We don't need to give dates, do we? Probably I was on my way riding my bike to classes and I saw these guys over in the park banging on each other and on trees. And I'm like, what a bunch of crazy bastards. And I didn't really think anything about it. And then the next year they moved the practice to the park right next to my off-campus dorm. And I went, you know, what the hell? I went out there and I met a guy that was like, well, learn how to kill a man with a stick. And I'm like, all right. So that was Viscount Robert Kinslayer way back when. He was the one that first taught me the SCA. And so I did that. I mean, I get to hit a guy with a stick. It's like, yeah, but they're going to hit you back. And I'm like, I get to hit a guy with a stick. Yeah, but there are rules. I get to hit a guy with a stick. I'm the youngest of three kids, three boys. I'm the kid. I'm used to getting beat up. I get to hit a guy with a stick and not get mom yelling at me. Sign me up. And that was kind of it. I just took to it like a duck to water. I was the asthmatic kid in high school, had it pretty bad, and I never got to do sports. So that was something I was looking at, but in the SCA, I didn't have to run laps. I didn't have to do all these calisthenics. Do it at your pace. Awesome. So it actually really did help me develop a lot of skills that I did not have because I was just a gawky asthmatic 90-pound weakling. And it was something special for me that I got to do at my speed and really enjoy.
So how long did it take you to get your armor together?
I was Antron man. I had carpet armor. I had an old Freon can helmet that had my nose sticking out of it a little bit. They had to bang it out with a rock so my nose didn't stick out. And I had the what was it? The yield sign legs. It was pretty ragtag. First thing I bought was my helm, and then legs because Robert Kinslayer was an armorer, so that actually helped. And the helm was $60, which for me at the time was expensive. It looked like a $60 helm. It was pretty damn ugly. But overall, I went through years of modifications of my armor to meet my body size and movement because I just moved in a way that some armor didn't work because I had the full coat that went to my knees or to the middle of my thigh, and my upper body moved opposite my lower body sometimes, and that just created problems because with legs on, the armor would grab on the legs, and I wasn't moving right. So ultimately, I separated the top from the bottom. And I went through, like I said, a lot of armor changes until I ended up in Germany, just because it worked. I could add to that, but that's kind of the basic of it.
So you started doing the fighter practices there, and you had Robbie Kinslayer helping with training. Yep. Who else did you have in the early years?
Let's see. I went by Rob's edict. Go everywhere, do everything. So I went to a lot of the only local one I had, because this was in Windy Meads in the West, which is right outside Sacramento at UC Davis. I would go to two different practices in Sacramento. One of them was Rotmana, which was, let's see, Rolf and
Alfric.
Alfred, thank you. I'd go to there because Alfred had Alfred Lane, which was this great place that he ended up building, which had simulated castle and bridge and trees. And we'd go out there and we'd have maybe 20 of us, 30 of us sometimes if we were lucky. Great time. But basically, I learned from Rolf, Kinslayer, Radnor. Radnor is the first Duke I saw. I didn't know he was a Duke. I just saw that guy over there, all in white, tall guy. Took off his helmet and he looked like he came right out of the comic strip of Prince Valley. I swear to you. And I'm like, I want to.
Yeah, did.
And I just loved watching that guy swing a stick. He just was the epitome of grace on the field. And off the field, again, there you go, grace and honor. He was just the guy I wanted to be like because he was pretty cool. Those were the early ones. It was later on
You
that.
squired?
Pardon?
Were you ever squired?
Nope, lone wolf. It just fell out that way. There's plenty of folks I look at and God, I'd squire to him, and it just never happened. Everybody thought I was Rob's kid, so that was fun. I became a student when I was a knight. I really learned. Actually, I became knighted. Then I started learning, and that was due to Sagan, who at this point everybody knows Sensei. I mean, he's the guy.
He's the guy.
Well, I went out and I'd won cornet, and I was like, I'm hot duff, and I went out there and went out to practice. I was pounding on people, and then Sagan's like, mind if we fight you, honey? Oh, and he just took me to school. I was just like, I'm not worthy. And ultimately, after apologizing for being a douche and saying that I'm not worthy, I asked, could you teach me? And he's like, maybe. And so he's the one that truly taught me to understand and respect fighting to the degree that a lot of his students do. Sean, Jade, Babe, that whole group, there's a similarity in us. We may not fight alike, but we hold a similar ideal, I think.
So how long did it take you to get knighted from when you found fighting to when you got knighted?
About 3 years.
3 years?
I dove in. I went to 3 practices a week if I could. I went to everything. I was just a sponge. I just enjoyed the devil out of it. I invented things. I invented shots until I got killed with one. I just created that. We've been doing it for years over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just, I had such a desire and a want and a need to be able to be athletic, I guess, at that point, because I'd never got to be. I played golf. That's not really athletic, but I got to go out with my dad. I learned tennis a little bit, but I'd have to go sit down and catch my wind. For those who don't know, when you have asthma, I think there's a commercial out where there's a goldfish sitting on the side of the thing out of the water going, that's what asthma is. You cannot breathe. It's like someone sitting on your chest. I hated that. And I didn't want to take the pills, and I didn't want to be addicted to a blaster. One of the, I call them blasters. Anyway, nurse lady, what is it called? Not a blaster, but a
Inhaler.
Inhaler, thank you.
Blaster.
Blaster. It blasts your lungs open. There it goes.
It does. I remember one time we were at a war in Australia, and I was crowned with Alina, and we were in the middle of a battle of a bridge with hay bales all around us. And I have bad hay fever. And I fell dead, and the guard that was around us, which was the angels, if I remember correctly, were just like covering me. Are you all right? I'm fine. Are you all right? I'm fine. Are you all right? I can't breathe. And they all just moved their shields up and gave me a tunnel to get the hell out. Went over to the throne, sat on the throne, pulled out my inhaler, and got my wind back because I was starting to go with dust and hay. Bam. I'm not sad that they don't use hay bales anymore much.
So what weapon style did you start with?
Sword and shield, and sometimes I used a mace. I had a one-handed mace that was probably about 30 inches long that I'd taken a softball and put on the end. I put a foam hand around it with a crescent on the front of it just because it was something strange you could make up. It was a little wonky. It worked, but mace and shield and sword and shield were my primaries. And then I picked up pike, long spear, 9-foot pike, 9-foot spear, and found out that I was pretty good at that. I enjoyed that as well. I was one of the guys that get up on the hay bales and do the As long as I'm not sitting on them, I was above it. But then they stopped. You couldn't get on the hay bales anymore.
What kind of shield did you use?
Heater, standard heater was usually about chin to crotch, shoulder to shoulder was the average-ish. So that made it 32 to 30. I used them so much at the time we were making shields out of wood, putting the fiberglass on the front and the veneer on it and everything. It was heavy, but it was
weighing 12 pounds.
yeah, but they would still go away. And I kept getting my shield them away too much, and I lost the top 4 inches. So I just cut them off because I couldn't afford to make a new shield and ended up with a sporting shield. And I went, that's kind of actually useful. I moved more, I paid attention more, and it helped my fighting because, well, I'm not as much behind the door as I was having to interact in the fight. And that,
Right.
I still fight with a short shield like that. I just find it more
So
comfortable.
I wanted to ask you about how you do power generation because, well, as we discovered years ago, you and I are kind of body doubles.
That's what my bruise.
So, you know, we are similar in height and weight and body structure. And when Duchess Elena did her book, you know, we were her models for that because we could show this is the female version of this human and this is the male version of this human. So I wanted to talk to you about how you do the power generation and that that concept for you.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't really think to apply that until I started getting better and learning. And I just threw stuff, pardon my French, but I just started throwing stuff. And Sagan kind of got me into understanding what and why you're doing it. If you end up in a position, how are you going to create or move from there, et cetera, et cetera. And it was at that point when I started bringing in, and I didn't have a lot of training in this, but my martial art, I had Taekwondo and karate. And I brought in some of that mentality into what I was doing of how to generate a power. Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. Well, you can do that with a sword. You can literally knock someone on their ass with a 1-inch punch with a sword in it. I don't recommend it. It's not nice. People will quit playing with you if you do that. But it's a matter of bringing it up through the ground, through your foot, knees, hips. It's just making the whole mechanic work. I can throw a very powerful shot if I'm up in the air. I can do it because it becomes a body work. Possible, not easy. Not everybody should do it if you can't, but it's possible. I've seen people, oh, you can't do that. All right. And then I hit them with it. Well, that's not possible. Okay. Yeah, well, okay. So it's just a matter of really of planting and pushing and responding and creating the spring or the gear, whatever you want to call it, or the leverage in your shot. You can lose the power in that same motion you're creating. If they're not there where you threw something, you better adjust it or move off because that power will disappear. You might square peg them and they go because they're just off.
Right. And you move a lot. You have a lot of flexibility in your body when you fight. Now, I have to admit that you and I haven't fought in probably 8-9 years. Well, you know, I'm far, so that happens. Yeah, but because of that movement, you know, you were one of my exemplars to figure out how to fight. You know, being that we are similar body size helped that, and being able to do a lot of blows that are, I'm going to say, offline, because you throw things from positions that people say, okay, you need to go back to your home to throw something, and you're like, everywhere is home. Everywhere
is home. Well, I collect styles too, you know that. So
yeah,
by doing that, it's just a matter of, okay, how is that guy doing that? She's doing that, he's doing that, they're doing that. I want to do that. How can I do that? And that's what I learned from Sagan, really, was I just play with styles. People tell me, oh, you're screwing around still. I can't help it. I hoard styles. What can I say?
When you say that you steal styles, do you mean that you steal like bits and pieces of something that you admire in someone else, and then you make it your own?
That's a good way to put it. But yeah, I'll be watching someone going, that was because, I'll use an example. Colin Jarrett and I were watching Crown List one time, and Radnor was in it, and he did this shot, and we looked at each other, looked back over at the field, looked at each other, did he just do that? And we sat there, well, stood there for 10 minutes trying to figure out what he did. We got it. We adjusted it to our own body because we don't move like that. I mean, we're not 6'2" or whatever Radnor is, but we took that and said, we can adapt that to what we do. And I do that. I'll watch someone fight and go, oh, that was interesting, like a boxer style or a goofy foot style, like a turtled up style, anything like that. I'll try to figure out what are the mechanics that make it effective. And that way, because one of the things I believe, if I learn how to throw a shot, I can understand better the mechanic of how to block it. So I understand what's coming at me. So if I'm learning these things offensively, I'm also learning them in a sense defensively, of how to attack that style or how to defend if I play in that style. And then I'll use shortcuts of it to make it more effective for me, possibly.
So what's your process of taking something and making it your own? Like, what kind of methodology do you use?
Well, I used to hate the pillar sucks. For learning a shot, it's actually not a bad thing because you're not out there pounding on the pill. That's not what it's there for. You're going to rack up your arm. It's there for placement and for understanding how to go from this section to that section to throwing combos, but how to generate the right motion, keeping yourself protected, and then creating power, though I don't do a lot of the power hit on the pellet because it hurts. But I essentially break it down. What hip, what body, where my feet need to be, where do my hands need to be, and I'll keep my head up like this, and I'll be thinking with my eyes closed how the process from beginning to end works. Because I might go, okay, here's the shot, and it doesn't work. So what my next opportunity is like, okay, is he using hip? Are there feet involved, et cetera, et cetera? But it comes down to trying it. And I'll do it in slow work because I like slow work. And in slow work, you can miss something and not wrench yourself. If you try it fast and you throw it wrong, you may get pegged, which is fine, but it's that missing a shot and the recovery that's important. So to back up to your question, one of the things I also work on is, what if I miss? Because I throw a particular shot that has a back blade, thumb lead, reverse, weird shot. And I missed teaching my squires the rollout from it. What happens if you miss? And they ended up tweaking their elbow or their wrist. And that's on me, because I didn't give them the opportunity to understand what happens when you miss, how does the whole shot and motion play out. So that taught me, even as a knight, I learned something. That taught me how to continue the whole motion of going back to your home or going to the next shot or just getting out of dodge. So I break it down kind of like that one.
So let's go back to your knighting real quick. Did you have a vigil?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And what? No buffet either.
Well, the buffet. No, I didn't, because the king at the time had on the Western ring, which is, I mean, it was like this big. It was huge. He's like, I'm not going to hit you with this. I was like, all right, fine. And on the day I got knighted, honestly, I became Earl Marshal, got knighted, and Queen's Champion all at the same time. I was just like, oh, I was just, my brain was elsewhere. All I heard was, bop, 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 stand up, you're a knight. Not really, but my buffet, my buffet came from King Jade when I was laureled. Yes, when I was laureled. He kind of looked at me and goes, it's under our understanding that you were not given the buffet when you were knighted. We would love to have you take this from us today. Yes, Your Majesty. All the laurels were like,
I think he just wanted to hit you.
Pardon?
I think he just wanted to hit you.
I think you're right. I had a handprint on my face for a day. So I was glad to get the buffet. sort of. It was a surprise.
That's funny.
I did not see vigil. I had no night, but there were plenty of individuals that were there to talk for me as well as help me find a way. Because like I was a sponge. Show me, teach me, I'll learn it.
So your knighting regalia for that day that you got from, were you able to plan some of that or ask people for it, or did it just appear?
Wow, that's the Wayback Machine. I'm just gonna say it appeared. I know I still have Sagan's belt. I'm wearing it right now. Boom.
Nice.
I don't know if I'll ever get that one away. That one's near and dear to me. But I had legacy chains, if you will, that were given to me that I passed on. Someone lost one time. We turned around and found it. It was like, don't lose that chain. That's important. So that it was nice to have that kind of outpouring, and it always is. Yeah. But it was very little time for me to go, you and you and you, or anything. People just want to hear, which is
right.
Excellent. How long after you got knighted did you win coronet?
Let's see, I lived in Sinagua and came in second a bunch there. That's the other principality in the west. And then I moved to the Mist, and I think I won either the first or second I entered, which is kind of sad because I lived in Sinagua forever. And I moved to the Mist, and hello everybody, do you know me? No, they knew me. They knew who I was. I showed up at practice with nothing obvious on, and they're like, yeah, we know who you are. Everybody's got to try that once in a while. But so it was fairly quick after my knighting that I ended up winning the Mist coronet.
So you were one of our common octopus, because in the West we have the Commendobulus, which is our come in second award, right? And you graced our field many times and didn't quite make the mark.
Bridesmaid.
Some of those days, I remember you coming off field going, nah, first to lose, first to shower, give me my margarita. And you're always very cheerful about it. But how many of those happened and how many have you won?
Let's see. I was the first to do it 3 in a row that I remember. There were others that had done it multiple times, but after the Commendobulus was created, I did it 3 in a row, and that was to James Greyhelm, Wolf the Relentless, and Radnor of Gildemar. Bing, bing, bing. And then Radnor had to abdicate, and I won the following one at Purgatorio, Purganation, whatever you want to call it, where I won and stood up that day. And I was. And Sagan, who was working at the time, ended up being so tired, he went to bed early because he was giving out so much energy.
Yes.
I went, thank you for the energy, Sagan. But it was, let's see, so that was 3. And then win and lose. Same out here in the mid-realm. I came in second a couple of times. I came in third one time. I was doing well. And Duke Bardolph was who I had to get into finals. I had to fight him. And he had on this real pretty breastplate that was all polished and everything. And we're fighting polearm because he chose. I'm pretty sure it's polearm. And he comes running by at a little bit of a distance because he started off at a little bit of a range. And I'm like, oh, this new surcoat looks pretty good. I'm looking at myself in his damned reflection. Bam! He's like, what the hell? I went, that's on me, man.
You know, I've heard of knights having their ego get in the way of a blow,
right?
But
right?
Wow.
I don't know. And I did my usual thing. I got hit. I laughed because I was being an idiot, and I fell over dead. So I don't know. I've not come into first plenty of times. There was one where I went out second round, and Jade was like, "We're going to meet in finals, right?" And I went, "Sure." And I'm sitting there third round with a big, speaking of margarita in my hand. He's like, "I thought we were going to meet in finals. I'll be on the field. I just not fight."
I'll marshal that for you.
No, I was sitting over on the side going, this is a great final.
So when you decided that to go for Crown and to go and try to win one, how did you change your training?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I had to get serious as opposed to dorking around. And Sagan pushed me harder than I pushed myself for cornet. Cornet was just right time, right place. I was on. Crowns, Sagan had really worked me good about triggers. And for instance, a trigger might be fight, 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 and he would give me that. That long, that fast, just whoop, why didn't you swing at me? I thought it was a trick. Well, you're supposed to take the shot when it appears, and since he created the trigger, I was supposed to react and throw my shot, wherever it might be, leg, body, head. This was before we did thrust. Well, we had thrusting, but there were the big trailer hitch cover things, and those were, they just killed the finesse of a sword. So it was before I had taken on the thrusting kit. But he really worked my watch the fight, see the entire fight, and trigger. When something opens up, your hand should already be there and go, oh, thank you, by the way, hand, for taking that shot. It's still something I teach my guys to this day, the triggers, because your hand-eye coordination can be so effectively deadly in this sport. That was kind of the most, and then, well, cookies and beer, but that was a Rob thing.
What part does the consort play for you when you're fighting?
Quite a lot, actually. I like the knowledge that I have someone there, especially if there's a question. If I question myself in a fight, well, I'm here to fight for that person's honor. My own, sure, whatever. I'm here to fight for that person's honor. I want to make sure I'm doing that fight. And if I feel this, like, God, that consort, what did you think of that? Oh, you just messed up and did the thing, and or I'll get some kind of input for that, which to me is very important, because sometimes, you know, we're our own worst critic. But if you get into that, God, did I just screw up in that fight? And you don't want to stop the motion of everybody's list, because if you go over and say, you know, after the fight, then they're starting to think, and you're just messing with people's heads. And it's, do it then, do it there, in the list, but you can't help it. Sometimes you just think, God, did I mess up that? Or else someone says, you screwed up there. It's like, I don't think so. The consort is there for me for that, as well as just being able to look over and see my beautiful gal. So I've consorted, and I didn't hate it. You know, I mean, I disliked it because it took as much energy to consort as it did to fight.
Right.
It does. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're watching, you're trying to be attentive, you're trying to be supportive. You want to help make sure they're watered and fed. And when you're one of the, there's different types of fighters. When you're a grumpy fighter, no one wants to talk to you. When you're that happy doop, they're trying to help keep being focused going. They are just another aspect of you that's helping you make it through the day. And it's a great rocking foundation to have.
Was there a difference for you between having a fighting consort versus a non-fighting consort?
I never had this separation, if I understand the question.
Because with your first reign, Surya didn't fight, correct?
Oh, I see, a fighter consort.
Right. She having somebody who understands, you know, because with Duchess Elena, you have the benefit of having somebody who completely understands the art.
Which makes it a lot easier to understand when they're trying to give you some introspection of what was going on, or trying to give you a point of view. It actually does help. When we're both fighting in a list, it is not fun, because you're both trying to fight and watch it, and it's doubly tiring. It's just taxing. I would say, however, that you are correct that having a fighter for a consort actually helped me in an extent, because they can give you a little better understanding and avenue of what you're looking at and what you went through. When Alina was fighting in a tournament, I said, have you looked at your next opponent and watched how they fight? Because when they do X, that's the spot where they're vulnerable. She's like, okay, you're not a total jerk. You're paying attention.
Right.
I tried.
Right.
Do you have a tourney day ritual?
Let's see, a big cup of coffee, napping to the last moment. And there was a picture at one of the crowns out here. I think it was a crown or one of the tournaments. And I'm over on the sofa sleeping with my Starbucks cup on the ground. I'm just curled up in my pre-ritual. They gave me hell about that. I usually try to get into my own quiet spot when I'm putting on my armor and doing my slow work, my warm-up drills, just so I can stretch and everything else. And I just try to go into my own mind, and I'll have the squire or the wife standing around me to keep people away from me, because I don't need in my ear. It's just, it messes with my ritual. It is what it is.
And I'm sure that with being a Duke, that you get plenty of people that come up and say, yo, you're going to win this one today, aren't you, Your Grace? We'll see you in finals, Your Grace.
We'll see. But I thank them. I mean, they mean well. It's just like, shh, I'm doing
exactly. Right. But you don't let that be a pressure to you.
No, I take it for the goodwill that is intended. And I do appreciate it. I mean, it's nice to have people come up and say, I'm rooting for you. That's kind of cool. It's always nice. As opposed to, yeah, why are you fighting? If I heard that, I would be like,
how do you maintain your headspace in between fights?
well, I've changed on that. There was a while when I was the grumpy fighter. I'd be like, and I'd sit in my little spot, and people would be like, what's wrong with him? And even Alina made a comment one time, you're going to be like this all day? Like, well, let's see if I can work on this. So I started kind of being a little bit more separating of my internal and then just doing general outside chat or things like that. I still like to kind of have my own little space, because I'm watching the fighters out on the field. I'm going, okay, I don't have to worry about that one. Ooh, that guy is on today. He's turned in his box top, so I'm going to have to pay attention. And I see what special thing he might have or she might have, as case may be, and just, that's one to watch. Oop, there's another one to watch. And I try to pay attention to that and then categorize it and then just not overly focus on it. I just try to find quiet spots. It's probably the best way to put it.
Right. Right. So go ahead, Rithkin.
No, go ahead.
So in the West Kingdom, we tend to do double eliminations as our tournament format. Do they do the same thing in Mid-Realm, or is there a different tournament format there?
Depends on the tournament.
So what varieties do you have?
For crown lists, what we do is traditional and new traditional, because it's been 3 times. Traditional is basically one and done, one and done, one and done. You go to the next round, and there's 2 brackets. There's a winner's bracket, loser's bracket. Currently, we've been doing something that I like more, and I'll tell you why. We have a pool. Out of the pool come 16 fighters, because 16 makes a perfect little bracket list. But if I've driven 5 hours to participate in crown list, I don't get knocked out in 1 round or 2 rounds. I get at least the number of fights in that pool, win or lose. I kind of like that, because it gives everybody a chance to A, warm up, and B, get more than 2 fights in. If you make it to the next round, good on you. Now it's going to get extra tough. That's one. They sometimes have done crowns out here as well as other fighting lists that are 2 out of 3. And each round in that, you have to fight different weapons. So it's not always sword and board. That was tough for me coming out here, because I'm a sword and board guy. I came out, all righty, what are we going to do? And I picked up a footman's mace. Remember what Fabian used to fight with, those like 38-inch maces? I fight with one of those. I love that thing. I get crammed with it, but that's okay. I made 2 of them to match. So I could say, here, let's play. That and 2 swords, but not your standard 2 sword. I do it, I think, what's called Christian style, with 1 down and 1 up. Main reason is Bastion, one of my squires, wanted to do that. Okay. And so I had to learn how to do it so I could understand what to teach it and what I was looking at. So it's fun. It could be deadly. It can also hurt.
So the West has open lists. How is the mid realm different than that? Is it invitation, or do you have to do a letter of intent?
Usually you send in your letter of intent depending on which crown it is. Sometimes you'll have to have a sponsor. That doesn't happen often, but you'll still send in a letter of intent. And then what happens is you'll send it also to the seneschal, and the seneschal goes, check, 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 member, this, that, the other, to make sure that we don't end up with any sniffers, because those aren't fun. No one wants to deal with, oops, I'm not really a member.
Yes, having dealt with that.
Every kingdom probably has at least one.
At least one.
But you learn. So it's they're usually invitation by request. They don't send a note to you. You send a note to them saying, "I'd like to enter with my consort so and so," and it's usually check. But you got to check the boxes.
Is there a limit on the number of entrants, or it's as many as ask?
As usually as many as ask. There aren't. It's in the 30s, sometimes in the 20s. It's been up higher. It hasn't been lower, I can remember. But it's sometimes it's been higher, and people drop out at the last moment. And stuff happens. I've done it. I've had to do that. And I totally respect that. It's like I and my consort know that if we happen to win right now, would be a horrible time for us to reign. I have to take the line out. Can I marshal for you today? That's the appropriate response.
Right. So when you went to Mid-Realm, you were already a Duke multiple times. You've talked about the different in the tourney format. How was it different for you mentally stepping into that, going and fighting in another kingdom, with the potential of reigning there?
I didn't actually fight in the crown here for a while. I just thought, nah, I could have. I'd win or lose, I don't know. But I just was like, you know what? I'd rather they knew who we were before I just went and went, this is me. Other people.
In the West,
What? Yeah, in the West, I still get that sometimes. I've been out here, geez, since 2007. No, 2004. So what is that, 16 years? I've been in the mid-range. And occasionally I'll get that, well, you're a Westie. I am in here, but you know what? I don't get that a lot, but I still, every now and then, it's like, I'm going to poke you in the eye. But
so
go ahead.
With crowns and being a knight and having been in the West for so long, one of the difficulties I had coming to Lockhawk was figuring out how I wanted to reshape my fealty, because I'm very much a Western girl. I am the Western lioness. And taking that and coming to Lockhawk, because I loved them, and Lockhawk, I had the advantage that Lockhawk was a principality of the West before it became its own kingdom. So I had a lot of similar mindsets here. And so, I had to reshape how I felt about my fealty. How did that impact you moving to another kingdom?
That's a good question. I mean, I still hold fealty very high and very near and dear, hence being a knight. I knew when I swore fealty out here, I'm swearing to the crown, and I am the crown's chivalry, the crown's knight. The ceremony was written different, but it did not mean any less. It meant more in a sense, because I'm somewhere new with a bunch of folks that hold what they say as important as I did what I said over there. It's different words, but it's really the same intent. And a lot of what was different was also the same. No knight swears fealty on their own here. If a knight comes forward to swear fealty, other knights will come up and swear it with them, just so they are not alone. I love that. I think that is truly remarkable. And you don't have to tell these guys what to say. Every night out here, they know it. They just launch into it. But bravo, folks, bravo. So it has a special meaning everywhere you go. You just have to kind of figure out what and how they are embodying it and how they're feeling it. I mean, the ducal ceremony I took is completely different everywhere, and it has a different bond to me when I first took it. So it's like I am the crown's mate, more so than a knight, just because, well, I've sat in that seat and I know what a pain in the butt it can be.
We talked about regalia and about how Ruth gets laughing. And you've been in the game for a long time, a couple years. What is your favorite piece of regalia, or a favorite piece that you've given away? Sagan's belt.
That and my
Sagan's
cornet.
watching.
Yeah. My cornet also, because the cornet was given to me as a gift. It was made and given to me. It's like, okay. And I've had that. I've made one other myself, the little black one that I have. I made that one, but the gold one that I have, I've had forever, and I haven't ever considered making another one. I thought of making a leather one with the glue, so it's lightweight, but it can be crunched. It's okay. Yeah, I found my black one time at Penzic after a night of partying, and it was like this. And it was yeah, it was flat. It had a great party night. It was over at the Lost and Found. I went, there you are. The guy's like, oh, I'm sorry. And they just like, yeah. It was fine. So I would say, just because of what my belt means to me, being a knight, as well as who it came from and what it meant in how I learned and approached fighting in the SCA, it means a lot to me. That's why I'm still holding on to it. The other one would have been Robbie's chain, Kinslayer's chain, which that one is passed on.
Nice.
And it's one of those old lamp chains, but it's a thicker one that has that specific sound to it. You know it when you hear it. It's not the newer ones, it's the older ones. So.
It's more substantial.
Yeah.
So Sagan says that we're supposed to ask you about the possum helmet.
Really? About the time that he schooled me, I became friends, and I was doing all the things, and I put my armor under the house in a army green duffel bag, and I was being friends. And some points, like, you do need to go back out and fight. And it was probably over winter, and I come out there, and I got my car, and I got my bag, and I tossed the bag out onto the ground. The bag hits, opens up, and my helm rolls out, and out of the helm rolled a possum. And he waddled. This is at BART practice, and it waddled off into the poison ivy, or not poison ivy, into the ivy over in the side over there in the parking lot. And I'm like, okay. And I picked it up and was like, oh, it had made a nest in my helmet. Man, that stinks. That was. It took a while to clean that out. So I didn't fight. I think I may have borrowed a helm that night. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I was known as Prince Pogo for a while. Remember the Pogo comic strip? Yeah, that's dating. Thanks, Sagan. Yeah.
So you have an amazing kit, and I know that well, we can talk about what you were laureled for, but when did you start deciding that you wanted to look a certain way on the field and work towards that?
Well, the Germans started early for me. I think it was in my third reign, and Gerald of Ipsley,
Yes.
Yeah, was like, well, I was like, I'd love to do the Germans, and Saria's like, or so, depending on which name of the week it was. And I'm not being mean, it's just we had three names. I got to remember which one it was during that time. I think that was Sophie. But I was like, oh, these are wonderful. So he made a set for me. While he made those, I made a set for one of the other squires, just because I wanted to learn how to do it. And he and I helped, I think, push that a little bit into the kingdom. And then that lady right there, Mari, went gaga crazy and said, nice job, folks. This is how you do it. And she made it look and be wonderful. Everyone went, that is what we're doing. So bravo to you for taking it and taking it an extra length. I love that stuff. I didn't transfer to my fighting kit until I moved out here because you have to have the helmet. You can't wear a bassinet with lawn skin. It just doesn't work. You can, but not this guy. So I found that helmet on the shelf. It was off the shelf purchase. I put it on my head and went, oh my God, a helmet fits my fat head. And it's what I want. So I said, put it under there, went and got my checkbook, came back and bought it and put it on the shelf in the shop because I didn't have lawn skin. And I said, you can wear that helmet when you make your first lawn skin fighting. I was pissed. I was mad at myself. I cussed myself every time I was in the shop until I got my first set. And actually, it was a set of hand-me-downs from Brian the Bellatrix that were kind of tearing up and didn't quite fit him anymore. And I turned them into my army Germans. And I was like, this rocks. I had the C belt, if you know what a C belt is. I had the C belt with the legs that are ABS plastic underneath. And then I have my vest, which fits underneath. And I have some pieces of armor on top. And it was so well distributed. I could turn my upper and lower body separately. And it was like I was just wearing clothes. And it was just like, this is what I need to be wearing and doing to just not hurt myself as I get older and continue on fighting. Because it's not heavy, it's distributed well, and yet it's still very protective. So that was about 2006, 5 or 6.
Yeah, looks spectacular.
I love it. And
And
I made it out of, pardon?
And it makes you easy to identify on the field.
That guy. Well, I first made them out of leather. Don't. Leather gets nasty when it gets wet. And I sweat like a horse. So, yeah. I can throw that in the washer and dryer because it's made out of a broadcloth. So, it's a lot more sturdy. Whoops.
I'm trying to see if.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's Squire Bastion. And a pair of the pants that I ended up with. Those were Hans's. Hans and I share clothes sometimes. I know that sounds weird, but hey, I think we switched sleeves at Appenzic one year.
I think if you can share clothes with Hansa, you share clothes with Hansa. He's got some really beautiful stuff.
He's got better stuff than I do now.
See if I can. Oh, wait.
That's old. That's old school.
That one's old.
Yep, that's the red pants. Those disappeared. Oh no, you know what happened with those? I let the kid have those and he tore the heck out of them.
And then that's super old.
That's, yeah, way back. Let's see, who all
We
has
got Fabian
Jade,
and Jade
Thorfinn,
and
Is that Thorfinn?
yeah, Thorfinn, and then Tom on the far right in the Antir.
Yeah.
Ulf.
Yeah.
That's Ulf.
Yeah. So yeah. Wow.
your babies.
All those nice fresh white belts.
Look at that. Stop the share. So the laurel is for your Germans and for your armoring?
Okay. I got it.
That's a question.
Okay. There was a few things I liked doing, making the Germans and teaching how to make them at that point in time. Doombeck, drumming, Middle Eastern drumming. I did classes on that. I took classes and I was actively a participant in that community for a while when I lived out west. And then a little bit for armoring. I learned armoring so I knew how to make it if I wanted it. One of my squires, Thomas Edmund Russler, I lived with him and he was marvelous as a teacher for, nope, do it this way. And with Norham, Master Norham as well. Nope, that's trash, throw it away. I'm working on that. Nope, it's trash, start over. Ah! Learning.
So what's your favorite part of reining?
Wow, that's a good question. There are different aspects of it. Probably the best thing is giving recognition to someone that doesn't expect it or don't think they deserve it. And just seeing the happiness on their face for like, son of a gun. Oh, and especially when the crowd marks their approval of, well done, Crown. You chose that person and we concur versus cricket. I mean,
Yeah.
probably done it wrong if you've done that, but paying attention, you can help enlighten and make happy people that deserve it, that may have been skipped over. A particular night, I remember out west, we were talking about in the council about knighting people, blah, 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 blah. And someone's like, what about that guy? And we're like, he's not sitting with us. Oh, hell, how did we miss him? And oops, poor man, we all went, Your Majesty, we totally sick because we missed this person. Because he was just an unassuming gentleman. Wonderful guy and a good fight. He didn't king well after the fact, but I mean, it was one of those things like, nope. Sometimes you miss, and it's up to the crown, in my opinion, the crown to help fill in those spots. Like, what about this person? Oh crap, you're right. So just giving proper recognition, and it's not like just giving it out like candy. It's true, honest recognition of a job well done, regardless if it's a peerage or an AOA. Bringing folks forward and giving them the attaboy that they so much deserve, to me, that's probably one of my favorite things. I like the pomp and the circumstance sometimes. When I have the crown on, I am on stage. I am here to put on a show, as it were. I don't mean it negatively in any sense of the word, but I'm on stage. I am part of this current reality that we are making as an escapist and recreational adventure. When I take it off, I'm just Steve in costume, or when I'm out of costume, I'm Joe person at the rest of it.
Do you have a favorite memory from one of your reigns?
Good ones, yes. I got some. A couple bad ones, but I think we all.
Good ones.
I enjoyed going to other kingdoms and helping put on the event, if you will, being part of the premieres for the event, sitting with the other crowns. Maybe it was in a war, and you're just making nice with folks. You're putting on. This is how we be nice to folks. This is how you interact with the folks. You're going to go out and throw them on the field. This is how you participate with them and everybody else. You don't have to be a dork. You don't have to be mean. You can be nice and honorable and chivalrous. And that was kind of, I like being able to do that with others and enjoying that time. That was probably the major thing, was just getting out and here's what the West is, or here's what the Mid-Realm is, and giving that example. I mean, we're all the same, and we have different names of people in each kingdom, but those people fit a particular niche almost. The name has changed, but that spot is held by George here, Bill here, Mary here, and so it's just different folks with the same kind of makeup. And I like to kind of find those people sometimes. The game.
So you've been that guy that fills those spots I know for certain in the West, and I'm going to assume that you've continued such in the Mid-Realm, and so among your other awards is being a pelican. So, and generally, we recognize our own because they are the doers. They are the makers of the event and the makers of the superstructure the SCA is hung on. Now you have all these things. How do you balance that? And how do you balance your feelings of duties to those things?
Well, honestly, I would say I could be considered sliding on my laurel and my pelican lately, or out here in the Mid-Realm, because I just didn't find the avenue I wanted. I've taught a couple of classes and I've helped folks with autocrating. I just haven't done the autocrating. I did marshaling for 50 year, and I've done some things like that, and the lady's phone is going on. Oh well. So it's kind of more piecemeal now. For fighting, I am very much active fighting. I'll do trainings at events, or TOC, which we have, which is Tournament of Chivalry. I love that event. You just go out and fight all day, and you're fighting unbelts all day long, and you're trying to help them and get their worth and their measure and what they're working on to help them along. For For the pelican, I'm still of the farm is like, well, I don't know that I necessarily deserved that, and I think probably most pelicans are to some extent. But I considered what I did as a pelican part of my chivalric and ducal duty, but other people separated out and went, no, he's doing this over here specifically, and we find that worthy. And it's like, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I still do that to an extent here, but considering the event style out here is different. In the West, there is a lot of, well, there was a lot of camping, and in the mid-run, we don't get that opportunity. It's just the weather really doesn't permit it. When we do, we love it. We just get into it. A lot of what we do is more event-oriented in a location, motel or a venue that's an indoor venue, and we are somewhere in the local vicinity, and we get a block of rooms at the hotels. And afterwards, we'll just do the revel at the hotels until we're told to shut up. You just room hop and do all the fun things like that. So you don't have some of the same intricate, odd things that happen that you might see at a camping event and an indoor event. So
I love that tournament of chivalry thing you guys do out there. It's super cool. Go ahead.
Do you have goals now that you are striving for, that you're actively working for in society?
For instance?
Well, at this point, you know, you have most of the tchotchkes, but in working with your squires, a certain thing that you are forefronting, supporting somebody else in their endeavors?
First and foremost, I pay attention to my squires in my house. Anyone that needs something, I try to make sure I'm there to help them learn, fix, adjust, build, all of those things, because I took them into my house for a reason, and developing them is very important. I also love training people. It's one of the things I picked up from Sagan. I love training people. Sometimes it's difficult. If I get a brand new person, I'm like, somebody help me with this. But if I find a journeyman fighter, they've already got some of the foundations. I could spend a day doing that. And a lot of times, someone will have to come over, and usually it's Alina, going, their eyes are spinning. Quit talking to them, because so much their eyes start doing this. Like, sorry, I overfit here. Drink from the fire hose. But my main ideal is to help the fighting community, help it look better, help it fight better, help it do whatever is positive in its growth. And I'm going to give props here. These online training and discussion forums, bravo. I want to watch and see in 6 months' time what kind of uptick we get in the fighting community, and what they've learned online versus physically. I think it's going to be interesting to see, and I say bravo to you folks for running these, because I've been listening to them and I love them. It's like, I didn't know that. I mean, what is it Sean has is have a victory in mind. What a great thing. It's like, I didn't thought of that. Victory, I didn't get injured. Woo-hoo! That might be somebody. You know, that's not a bad thing. I know injury-prone people that just can't walk on the field and walk off without having something happen. It just happens. So my ideal really is to help in whatever way I can the fighting community, whether it's marshaling, whether it's training, doing, like when I was talking about the Mason, they were not allowed out here at one point because people were using these really heavy things that could knock you into next Tuesday. I'm like, well, that's not good. So the king went, bam. He was the king of the Earl Marshal. I can't remember. Alaric. Anyway. So here I am fighting with Palomar with these things, and somebody comes over and goes, you know, those things are illegal. What? No, well, back in the main part of the rules, nothing. Way back over here in the appendix, you can't do this. Oops. Hey, Earl Marshall, can we get an exemption and put green tape on these and make them experimental? Well, considering you're already doing it, sure. Sorry. Sorry, mea culpa. So we did that for a while, and they found, okay, it's the actual construction, not the specific weapon. And it's one thing I got to assist with. I got to help with by having it. Just like much like when they first started with the low profile thrusting kit. A lot of people are like, oh, yay. And I'm like, okay. And people were testing them. And I went, can I try that? And I'm like, that's nice. Wow. Because I remember Thorfinn and Hansa just giving me grief with those things. Like, okay, I got to learn this stuff because that just changed the game completely. I had to learn fighting all over almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different.
It is different. Mari, do you have other subjects? Because I was gonna.
Well, yeah, I was looking at time. Are we ready to look at the stick?
Yeah.
Stick.
Let's look at your sword, your killing tool.
The killing tool. Hang on, I can't reach it. The killing. So, basket hilt, aluminum because the other ones are bloody heavy. The rattan is probably inch and a half, planed down just a little bit. You can see it's got an edge, but I use athletic tape, but I use colored. My medium sword is yellow, the short sword is white, and the long sword is black. Just so I don't have to tell someone, can you give me my medium sword? You don't know that from the hole in the ground. Hand me my yellow sword. I actually do a variety of a hand. You can just barely see it in there, but I do a hand grip modded to my right hand, because if you put it in your left hand, it doesn't feel right. And I use a trigger lanyard. And this is based off of, wait for it, Sagan's. It all comes back to the same guy. But the weight and the life on the athletic tape is, to me, a lot better than the gray duct tape. And this, I can rebuild the sword. I can take this tape off a lot easier than I can if it was duct tape, and rebuild the sword with the strapping tape tight on it again, and get a second life out of it. I used to take the sword out and put it back in the other way. Well, since I modified the handle, I can't do that.
Right.
And then I have the low profile thrusting. Depending on which kingdom you're in, they have to be a different color. I don't think ours currently has a color change. I just like making it red, so it's obvious I'm going to try to stick you with this stuff. And this one is 34 inches. I write it on the inside of my hilt so I know.
Ooh.
If people ask me, well, how long is it? Well, that one's 34. And that's overall. I call it overall. Some people do it from sword length. I do mine overall length.
So what is the purpose for you of having always 3 different sizes of stick?
Multiple reasons. One, you might as well learn how to fight with different weapons, because it's going to break, or you're going to borrow, or. And I remember making a new sword, going into lists, and this is the one that I fought Kielson in, where we had that row in the tent with him afterwards. That was a great story. And I had my sword, and we were fighting, and I walked off the field and went, that's a turd, and I threw it on the ground and picked up my other sword, which was kind of broomy. It was kind of wobbly. And I thought the next round, I think, were that. I ended up going out about 5th round or 6th round with Kielson. But you've got to be able to change out. If your equipment's not working and you're not happy with it, change it. And if you know that guy you're going to fight next loves to climb up your shorts, you might want the shorter stick versus the 40-inch sword. You want the 38 or the 34. Or you want to go with a mace. Or my opinion is, it's good to know the different lengths. Because if you're fighting, I learned to fight with a 42 to start with. Reach out and touch someone, and woof, woof, slow and swingy. And I can hit that guy over there in a melee wonderfully. He's like, who the hell hit me? Well, me way over here. But one-on-one, if I got my legs taken, swinging around a 42-inch sword in one hand, dead. So I knocked it down 1 inch. I knocked it down another, and I finally ended up at 39 inches. Was my 39 and a half was my pristine length when I fought out west. Now it's about 36. And again, this one's 34, and I use this one the most. Just I like the weight, I like the style of it. It just feels good. And I can go in and out at my leisure. And I fight primarily goofy foot forward. And well, that gives you 4 extra inches right there. So I've already closed the distance somewhat.
Where does it go dead at?
Dead. Where's the balance?
Yeah, where does, when you untape it, where is its spot that gets super squishy? Because you hit there all the
Oh, right there. Usually this range, but when you're fighting, you should always look at your blade and make sure A, you're hitting on the edge, not the flat. And you can look at mine and see where the tape marks are. But mostly I lose it right here. Mostly.
Mostly.
If you look at the long sword, it's way out, it's actually out further towards the tip because I'm playing a longer game.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so do you have any other topics, Mara, you want to cover, or should we wrap it up?
No, Your Grace, anything you specifically wanted to chat about that we haven't covered?
I'm thinking. Actually, one reason for Goofy Foot, I did want to bring that up. Why did I pick up Sword Foot Forward, Goofy Foot Forward? Not because it was a stylistic thing, because I had a left-handed squire that kept hitting me in the cup. Yeah. And I was like, well, ow, how am I going to? He was like, oh, I'm sorry. I went, my dumbass is not blocking it. So I switched my other foot forward and I got pegged in the leg and I went, that's far better than getting hit in the cup. And so all of a sudden I started beating him up and he's like, what changed? I got smart. And then I learned I've got 4 extra inches on you just by changing my hip location. And you don't know it. He hated that. And then I just started using it. And I found I was more, personally, I was more effective in a lot of my fights being that foot forward. I don't always do that. I'll stand flat foot to you. I'll do a long, lengthy sword foot back. It depends on what style I play in, but I love Goofy Foot Forward because I can lunge and move and go offline and hop up and do a lot of things out of that positioning that other people can't.
Where does your unique sort of footwork and movement come from? Is that just something that you made up as you were learning?
Watching people. And if you're moving, it's harder to get hit. You'll get a lot more things slough off of you because you're moving. And pet peeve of mine, we're much better at it now, and we as in knights, chivalry. When we train, we say, move. Move. We have to get better explaining what we mean by moving. And we have gotten much better at that. And I make sure I try to tell people for their body style what type of movement they can work on. Havek looks like he moves wonderfully, but he has such tiny motion. He has bad knees. He can't do big lunges. He does big lunges on me because I'm moving all over the place, and he crashes and burns. It's like, oh, that's right. I can't do that with you. No. But he stands still and hits me. So, but he uses micro motion like I use big motion. And you'll see that. Watch Duke's fight, and there's some of them that I watched Branos in a Champions bout one time, and he was doing his little Branos. He was fighting Craven, and nothing was happening. Craven's like, and finally Branos went, and Branos did the whirling dervish on him and got him, and I went, you can do that too, you rat bastard. Yeah, he just doesn't like to. It just takes too much energy, and I can attest to it. I get tired of moving around a lot. But if you're not moving, you're gonna get hit. You can try to do like Hans and I used to do, to stand still and just do the Russian slap fighting. It's good for being in there and learning how to deflect and move standing still. But motion is important. It really is. Especially if you're trying to learn how to create power, which we started off with discussing, creating power from an odd position. You can do it. You just have to learn how to make your body do it, whether it's from your shoulder, your hip, or your feet.
Right.
Cool. All right. So we're going to do the final 10 then. Okay, so the first one is, if you could fight anyone in the world, who would it be?
You mean in the SCA?
No, in the world.
Yeah,
Oh,
in the world.
world. No, I'll be nice. I haven't got to fight Ragnar in forever. I would pick him just because. And Sagan, just because I know he'd beat me up and I'd learn something. But there's some people that I just remember such wonderful experiences with. I would love the opportunity to fight them again, just because I don't know, it was wonderful. I love fighting, and if you fight someone else that loves it too, it's a wonderful path. It really is. Win or lose, doesn't matter. I'll just laugh if I get killed.
All right. Who would you like to see reign in your kingdom?
Let me see. Alina. I think that would be awesome because I would get to be the guy in the divan being carried around with my little pug and my bonbons.
You get to be the laddie of the rose.
See, I would make it so bad. She'd be like, "Stop it." So there are a number of folks that I would like to see them reign because one, they have a little different perception, point of view. That's a better word. Point of view of how things look and feel, and they would like to see them done. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not, and you go, "Ooh, that didn't work," but you don't know until you see it. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean it negatively, but sometimes people should reign so they understand what they're talking about. It may sound a little snarky, and I apologize for that, but it's different. Once you've done it, you're like, "Ooh, now I get it."
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not smart, it's just they don't have that actual in the chair understanding. And like right now, I applaud the royals that can reign in this time. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And some of them are just stepping up and playing, going, "We have this thing called social media. Let's use it. We've been given lemons. Let's make lemonade." And they're doing a wonderful job. And I applaud them. I stand up and cheer them. And
Some of them have been really creative.
Yep.
You
are creative anachronists after all.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. If you could talk stick with anyone in the world for an hour, who would it be?
Well, we're kind of doing it.
Well,
talking stick is talking stick.
Okay.
I love going to parties that are not SCA, and over the corner you'll see. It's like, it started. You can make bet on about when it's going to happen. And you know what? I'm guilty. I'll gravitate to that conversation because there's always something to learn and there's always something to teach.
All right. What is your favorite medieval-esque or period movie?
Let's see. There's good and bad ones. There is, now I can't remember the name of it. Rutger Hauer, where they launched the plagued animals.
Flesh and Blood?
Flesh and Blood! That's a horribly bad, good movie. It's just visceral. It's just visceral. I guess that's why. Because you know what? Real warfare is not fun.
No.
It's nasty. And that actually came across in that movie. And that gal that was trying to save her own ass, you better believe people do that. 100% of the time. I just want to get out of this alive. I don't care who it is. So that one kind of hit home. Another one was The Last Valley. It had Omar Sharif and Michael Caine, I believe, is in it. And it was, Omar Sharif was the monk or whatever in the area. And Michael Caine comes over this little hill during I can't remember what wars it were, it might have been Napoleonic, but comes over the hill into this village, is like, "We're taking over." And there's a point where someone's arguing, he goes, "You argue with me? Fine. You know what? You need to see Korsky. Take him to see Korsky." You know where Korsky is? He's in a ditch dead. Yeah, Norham got me onto that movie because you need to see this movie.
Your wife says it's really The Princess Bride.
As he is. Yeah, you know what? Hans and I will do that. Hans and I will be fighting and we'll jump back and go, "Oh, very good." He goes, "Oh, I thought the ground suggested a geek." And we'll do the whole thing just because we're geeks. So yeah, she's not wrong.
If you could add a rule to the rules of the lists, what would it be?
Don't be a dick. No, okay, that's kind of.
We have that rule. That's it.
Yeah, oh, is it? Okay. Well, here we go. When I started, there were like 9 or 7 rules of the list. Now there's teams. I think we have plenty.
Okay.
I don't know that I would change any. The first few are the most important.
Are there, other than the rules of the list, because as Earl Marshall, you know, there's the rules of the list, which are the 9, and then we have all the other rules that actually are the fighting rules and things like that, like, you know, taking a knee or going down to your hips or whatever. So are there any of those rules you would change?
One of the biggest challenges I've seen in going to different kingdoms and fighting, and I've been to a few, are the conventions of combat. They're not always adhered to. And one of my worst injuries came from being corkscrewed. And it's like, well, we don't have that rule. Well, you just busted my ankle. Thanks. That ends it. Day 2, I won't be wandering around much. I was livid. And honestly, going back to my asthma, I walk a lot during the evening when it goes from daylight to dusk and dark, because that's when a lot of the things in the air want to go in my lungs. So I usually go walking to help clear out my lungs. Nope, we had to go get a hotel because yours truly couldn't clean out his lungs and was having asthma problems the entire time. So I would ask more kingdoms to understand the conventions, why they're there. Do we need a rule for them? As soon as you make a rule, someone's going to squirrel with it. I've done that. I understand it. Pink spurs.
For the non-Westerners in the audience, will you explain corkscrewing?
If I am legged and facing my opponent, I'm like this, here I am on my knees, and you're fighting from here, corkscrewing is going past that 180-degree mark and making me spin on my knees. Because people fight differently on their knees, some have their feet kicked out, some go up on their toes, different things. You can help injure somebody that way. And it just, we're not fighting in a true war or kill you situation. We're fighting more or less in a tournament situation. So let's be a little bit more chivalric and understand that we want to fight this person again. Let's not do things that can lead to injury. And right. I think the conventions, not having them face the sun when they're on the knees, turning them away from the sun. It's a nicety, and it makes for a better fight because they're not going, I can't see. Bang. Well, that's no fun. What did they get out of that?
All right. What is your favorite tournament format?
Yes.
Yes.
One that has a lot of fighting. Now, I've been gassed out at the end of one of these things, but that the tournaments are there to show your mettle, your worth, your prow, your ability, all of those things. And if you can't get through the whole thing, you're not there yet. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying those in peak form are the ones that are going to do best. And it shows their dedication to their sport and their understanding of it and their desire to get there, to make it happen. So in any kind of combat, I like. I don't like one dead and done if I'm going to put them in an order. Pool combats, anything where you get a lot of fighting in, it's just good for everybody. And I want to include, without being overly so, everybody in this and give them the opportunity.
Okay. What's your favorite event?
TOC. You can put that out there now. A tournament of chivalry, which again is all the unbelts line up outside the field. And usually we have the ladies of the rose, because they tend to know who everybody is, hold the gate and point and say, Duke Stephen's open, or Sir Michael's open, or Sir Seychel's over somebody. I don't know. They'll just point and say, this person is available, go over there. And the individual might say, I just got done fighting them. And the next person will come in and they just gate these fighters through. And over on the other side, we'll have what is called the crown list, the crown tournament, which is you go out there and you're going to fight these guys and they're just going to pound you. I don't mean that negatively, but they're in crown mentality. You fight them once and you leave. You don't get any instruction, nothing. In TOC, I'll do 2 out of 3 and I'll ask, what are you learning today? What are you working on? Well, I don't know. Well, I will look for stuff and help you. And I try to give everybody one thing to take away. Sometimes I give them the fire hose. And they're like, or someone's come up to you and go, what have you done to my squire? Sorry, I broke him.
If you could have any helmet, regardless of cost, what kind would it be?
Version A. That's my next helmet. That one back there I've had since 2000, what I say, 5 or 6. I've had to weld it a couple of times because it's getting a little dubious now. It's actually, I welded the hell out of it recently. So it's back to being useful. But my next one's a version A, but I've got to have the money in my pocket to get it. And it's a little
Who do you want to make it?
What?
Who do you want to make it?
Well, there's one stateside and the others are overseas because of cost. They're not cheap.
No.
But I know the gentleman's skill and value here. And when I said it's going to cost me this much, I was right. I'm 7. I'll get there.
It's Saturday morning at Estrella, and several people want to talk to you about last night. What did you do?
It's Saturday what?
It's Saturday morning at Estrella, and several people want to talk to you about last night. What did you do?
Well, they're going to have to wait until I wake my ass up. Everyone's like, oh, that's true. What did I do last night, huh? At Estrella. I may have lost one of my squires over in some encampments and made him walk home in the middle of the night.
With across the entire warfield on that other side and 2 ditches? That squire?
That squire with his foot in the boot. Yeah, he came back drunk in the morning because he was asking, you know who my knight is? Can I have a drink? And in the middle of the night, he saw some other poor squire that given a geas to wander around the event in a rabbit outfit. And he's like, thank God when I mentioned, he goes, I thought I imagined that. No. So I'm usually out partying and I'm not a heavy partier, but I love to just go out and hang out with people at the parties and butterfly about and see how folks are doing, chat about the day, et cetera, and end up in the corner.
Yeah. All right. Who is your favorite fight ever?
I have a few. In my previous past history, I love fighting Rob and Radnor, just because in Sagan. But Radnor, I'm going to keep going back because it was just beautiful and grace in motion. It's like, how can you do that? Well, he was good at it. And then here, one of my favorites is, he's currently crowned, is Felix. One of the first times we fought together, we were using what I call my boarding shield, and it's a little 18 by 18 heater. And he had one about the same size, and we just went at it. And it was like, I don't throw that in there. It was like Hans and I fighting. I will always like to fight Hans because he fights similar to me. And I'll go, that's a move I make with a twist. And he's just good. But they all bring a, what's the word? Just the fighter.
Joy to live.
Yeah, they just bring their heart into the fights. And anyone that does that, I will love to fight. There's a gentleman out here, Sir Gunnar. I love fighting a guy because we're not mad at each other. We're like, hurrah, and we'll just jump on each other and people are like, Jesus, are they mad at each other? No, they're having fun. And I'm the same way with Hansa and with Felix. And those are my favorite fights. I don't care who it is. It could be an unbelt. It could be a new guy. As long as they have that kind of verve in their fight, I will look them up again purposefully.
Excellent. All right. And then the bonus question is, who is the cleanest fighter in your kingdom?
Cleanest?
Cleanest.
Can he take showers regularly? I'm a smart guy. Um, it does vary, just because of something someone's working on or whatever. Um, I'm just trying to think of people that I thought that I've had to say, no, 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 no. That was crap. I hit you with a flat. Oh, it would have knocked me out. um, wow, there's just so many of them. Um, I'm just thinking. I can throw names out there, but I could throw out a dozen names and still have a dozen more because it just it's so rare that you end up with one that's not good necessarily. That those are the ones you point out versus the ones that are. Because I would just say we have a stellar group in our fighting community, and there are a couple that are a little heavier, some are a little lighter, some that are a little don't talk when they fight, some that talk too much when they fight. What I say is good. Another one might go, maybe not. But I'm just going to say all of them, all of them, and everybody can do better.
That's not a bad problem to have, that there's everybody's good, so that's awesome.
Well, I mean, they're not all good. Some people you have to occasionally go, hey, chill out, count that shot. And who knows? Maybe their armor slid away from them when they got hit. They didn't know, or their armor's too good. I see a lot of people fighting wafts with full legs. You're not going to feel crap. Wonderfully good armor for real what we were doing, but for what we're doing here, you're not going to feel something. So you better get better at considering how you're counting your blows.
Right.
I just tell some of my squires, if any issue comes up, you count everything. Well, why? Because you get better at blocking.
Right.
Yep, because they can't tell you it was a good blow if they never hit you.
Yep. And it's a good training tool. And it's July 4th. The fireworks are going off. They're early here.
Conditions, right? If you get hit, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you count it, you're like, no, it wasn't good. It's like, I let you hit me.
Well, thank you both for joining me. I really appreciated talking to you. I've heard so many good things about you. Like I said, you can't talk to anybody from the West without them bringing up your name as an influence. So
one way or the other.
Well, it's always good, and it's always about developing their style. So you've definitely had a huge impact on the Western fighting style.
Well, thank you.
That's pretty awesome. So, and I hope someday we get to meet in person.
I would love to, and throw a stick at each other too, or be in the corner doing the thing.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Tomorrow I'm talking to Duke Brian of Tarragon. So that should also be a pretty good one. We're going to do that one early too, because he's on the East Coast. And this has been fascinating. And thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Look me up. I'm on the